All right, so let's keep working on blowing up our building. I'm going to go ahead and do Shift A mesh, and I'm going to add a cube, and I'm going to hit S to scale that up just outside of like the shape of our cube. Then I'm going to hit S, and then I'm going to hit Z, scale this down. Let's make that just a little bit thicker, S and then Z. Let's go to this mode. Again, this is kind of my default for viewport shading, and then I make sure that random is on so I get these colors. And then I'm going to hit my Del key and go to the front view and just make sure my cube is sitting below my building. So G, Z, and just move that down a little bit like that. All right, so a couple things with this building is I want to separate these two. You could actually just go back if you struggle with the next step and just remake the building with just a bunch of windows and stuff for your assignment. But if you plan on making more advanced buildings and stuff, it might be helpful to, essentially get into this mode. I'm going to hit Alt C here. It's called wireframe mode, and just kind of go through these steps so you could separate it. So what's happening here is if I hit Tab and I go to edit mode here, and I press the number 3 key on my keyboard, where I select these faces, I want to be able to select all of the pieces here in the easiest way possible so that I can essentially, separate this off, because it's going to give me problems if I go to do a fracture. I need this to be its own fracture, and I need that to be its own fracture too when the building kind of explodes. So a way that you can select these faces, like notice when I drag that marquee, it didn't grab any of these, is if I hit Alt and 0, this is called X-ray mode. So now I can go in here and just do my best to kind of grab those pieces. Now, even though it didn't grab everything, I can hit Control and L, and that'll grab any adjoining faces. So you can see there that it looks like it got everything. And then if I just hit, I think it's Control J. Let's see. Or is it P? Yeah, P is to separate it. Sorry, not J. I can just do a selection, and then what it'll do is that'll actually take my, let me go back to object mode. If I hit G here, sorry. If I select this now, it separated that off. So now that's its own piece. I'm going to do the same thing back here. I'm going to hit tilde, and I'm going to go to my right view here, hit Alt and Z, and I'm just going to hit Tab, go to edit mode, make sure I'm in face mode here by pressing 3, and try to select as much of this as I can. I'm holding Shift to add, or Control, is it? No, it is Shift to add to my selection. Then I'm going to hit Control and L to select all of that, and it looks like I got all of it. And then I'm going to hit P and separate that selection. So now I've got all of that separated. Now, something else you might have to do is a couple things. When you do your fracture, we might have issues where if there's a hole anywhere in our mesh, right? So I'm going to hit Tab, again, go back to edit mode, hit Alt and Z. And what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to press the number 3, select a random face, and hit Control and L. Or is it just L? Yeah, L and Control L, I can do the same thing. But what I want to do is I want to start looking at places where I'm like, okay, let me select this base and make sure that this is not, just a separate thing. So I'm going to select, for example, this face. I'll hit G and then X maybe, or no, Y. Just kind of move it off to the side. You can see that that is meshed, that is put together. If I select this and I hit G and I move that over, so that looks pretty good. So this is, remember what I talked about before, you need it to be contained mesh. Now we might have some issues here just because there isn't a lot of surface geometry here to cut from. So we might have problems at the bottom, these faces, but overall it looks like it did a pretty good job of making it one continuous mesh. So I'm going to tab and go to object mode here. Now a couple things, if you go to object here and you go down to quick effects and you don't see cell fracture here, remember you have to go to your edit preferences, and inside of your add-ons here, type in cell, make sure that it's turned on, and always go here and do save preferences. When you do the save preferences, then it'll load it into your scene, or it'll make sure that every time you open it, cell fracture will be there. A couple of things is if we go to object, let's go ahead and just go through the cell fracture settings. So quick effect cell fracture here at the building. Similar to before, I want to do verts. Source limit, if you keep this low if you don't have a lot of CPU power. I'm going to jack this up to 300. I think that would be cool. Now for my scale, by default it's set to 111. This has to do with the scale of those pieces that are being fractured. So if if you're getting really massive chunks like on the inside here, I'm gonna try point one, and point one to see how that looks. I might even have to go smaller. Now we don't have any materials set up, so let's go ahead and do that now. So let's say the outside of our building. So let's remember we're gonna go in here. We'll make a new material here, and this is just gonna be a red material. And let's go ahead and just go to our materials here, or our viewport shading here. So that's the outside of my building, is this like fire hydrant red. And then I'm just gonna hit plus, and I'm gonna make a inside material here. And for the inside material, I'm just gonna go with a brown, right? So maybe this is like painted brick or something. So let's see if we go a little bit more this way, get a richer brown. There we go. Oh, it looks more orange. If I pull this down, it'll probably become more of a brown. Yeah, there we go. Okay, and then we'll name this outside. That's really bright, but let's go to our last option here. Hit Shift A, go to light, and let's just look at how a little bit of our light. And I'm going to do the same things before. I'm going to add a sunlight. Just going to hit G and move that off to the side. Hit R to rotate, and then I'm going to rotate on the X-axis. So maybe something like this, because this will be the angle of our building blowing up. And then Shift A again, light, same lighting setup. We're not doing any kind of 3-point lighting or anything. And then I'm just going to do another sun, hit G, move that over to the side. Make sure that I turn off shadows on this. And this is just going to be to soften my shadows. All right, so here's our light here. If you want to, you can also light this side. So I can hit Shift D on this one, duplicate it, move it over. And this would be like our side light. So I'm going to hit R. And then this time I'm going to do it on the Y-axis and just rotate it this way a little bit. And I'm going to make the strength of that a lot lower. Maybe I'll have some little bit of red is a very strong color, so it like really absorbs light. So a lot of any color that we add to it is just going to make it more of a purple or something. Well, let's go ahead and do that. Let's tint it. So something like that maybe. And then play with that strength a little bit. All right, so looks pretty good. I mean, if you want to really look at the render mode, you could change it to cycles or something and see, okay, wow, that's a really beautiful. This will eat up processing time. Something like that. I usually work in EV and then I'll render it in cycles if I want it to look really nice, but we haven't even gotten into the Electron rendering. All right, so back to this. So here's our building. Let's go back to our object. Let's go to Quick Effects, and we're going to do Self Fracture here. Again, I went a little bit higher, 0.1.1. We want to do material 1 for the inside when those pieces break. We'll make sure we're on own vertices, and I made a collection here called building pieces. So let's go ahead and hit OK. You can see that is a little bit thinner, and it looks like, there we go. So we did get some issues down here. We might have to increase our self fracture size. And let's see. Looks pretty good. I mean, like I said, we could probably fix this up down here. There seems to be some issues going on. Okay, so here's our building pieces. Again, I'm not going to berate it a little bit too much. I'm going to hit Control S to save this. I'm going to go to Objects. I'm going to go to Quick Effects, Self Fracture here. I'm going to make this one much smaller, 100. And I'm just going to add that to the same building pieces selection. So hit OK. And that one came out terrible because of there seems to be like, I might have to even separate those out. But to be honest with you, if I was making a film, what I would do is I would have my initial building, which is here, and all three of these pieces visible, and then I'd have this invisible. So that would be a quick swap between the two. So right now we're going to go nice and cheap and just do that effect again. Quick Effects, Self Fracture. And you could go here to Materials, and then you could apply the, well, I guess this regular material here, and then you can add the inside material to that and do the same thing here. Let's see, here's this one, here's that one. So add the this regular just so that's gray, and then you'll add a inside material here. Oops, it looks like it made that. Sorry, material, and then we'll add the inside material. So these will like crack. So let's go ahead and do self fracture on this guy. Maybe we'll go a little higher. Maybe that'll fix it. This, I don't think it's necessary. I don't actually, we're not even going to see this from our angle. So I'm going to cancel that. I'm not going to waste processing power. But, all right, so for these three, I'm going to not make them renderable because I just want to focus on this, which is the building pieces. So here we are. We have all these building pieces. I'm going to right click on the top layer there. I'm going to go to select object so that it selects all of those. And it looks like these were, the lights were also added into that collection, which is not good. So I'm going to scroll all the way down. Actually, I can just probably pull this all the way down to help me out, because we have a lot of building pieces here. Actually, what am I doing? I'll just grab these and then hit, I think it's Shift G or Control G. It's M, yeah. So M as in mark, and then you hit new collection, and we'll just call this lights. Hit create, and then let me actually shrink this down a little bit. Like collapse this, for instance. And then our lights are now in that collection, so we could turn those on and off if we don't want to see them in our scene. All right, let's kind of frame this. Back to building pieces. I'm going to right click, go to objects, select objects. It selects all of our building pieces. Hitting Control S to save that, because I don't know, a lot of times we get some crashing. We have cell factor. That's not what I wanted. I want to go object, rigid body, and I want to do add active. Now for this, what I want to do, because there's a lot of mesh stuff going on, and this gets a little intensive here, is under physics here, the shape, I'm going to actually try mesh this time, just so it takes on the form of the mesh. And then for my piece, my floor here, I'm going to make this passive. Now I'm going to hit space bar to let that blow up. So you can see that exploded. So that's kind of cool. I think part of the issue might be that the reason it's not falling downward is these pieces here are intersecting too much. So I'm going to hit Alt-C here to make sure we're in object mode. And let's just select all of these. And I'm just going to, yeah, see how it's intersecting into the building? So I'm going to hit G and just kind of move this off. And then let's try that again. Yeah, it looks like there's some force going on. Let me actually just delete those. I want to see if we just get this building to freeform. If it'll just fall. Yeah, that's definitely conflicting, like the way those pieces are. You can see these pieces are still massive. All right, so I'm going to hit Shift and back. And again, we could adjust those maybe more than 0.1. But I think for now we're at 13 minutes. We'll further refine this in the next video.